Let me go ahead and show you what can happen if you were to go for your whole value all at once, make too dark of a leading line, and how much it can take away from the effectiveness of this contour that we're looking for. This wonderful shading and incorporating that line and making it an edge to value. If I didn't, this is what would happen. And now when I try to shade that, it would force me to go too dark to try and match it up. It's much better for me to build it up gradually so that I'm in control and I know just where to stop with just enough value. So this would really hamper our style and our technique and effectiveness if we start seeing dark lines, as in a coloring book, become the edge to all of our wonderful contours and curves, shading, dimensional edges and all. So that's one thing I want you to watch for. If you have too dark of a line, then work it up gradually. Do the tracking. Do a lighter line initially, and then just start putting one stroke over the top after another so that you can gradually increase it as you go. And then you will be more in charge of how far to take it so that it doesn't end up too dark for the value you want to put up there. You never want to be forced to make it as dark as the line and have that dictate to you how much value you have to put it next to it to make that line go away. One of the other things you may run into is you may forget to fade it away and see that wonderful graduation of tone. This is what's going to happen if we are starting okay and we have our initial line that we're building up the value to, and now we're going to start pulling away from that edge, but we forget to get it lighter and lighter and lighter. It's real easy to have that happen. As you're watching me do this, you'd probably think, oh no, I won't have that problem. But it's real easy to be thinking about, well, I'm going to land softly and I'm going to get this refined and fill in the spaces and all those things, and then stop suddenly. Well, look what's happened. Now I no longer have contour. I have two competing edges. And I want you to really get used to creating one, unless you have, surely there's going to be a time when you'll need two clean edges, but I want you to fade this away so you have the ultimate contour, a range of value, and to be able to show that this has a transitional edge so you don't really see where that stops. So there's no question, when we're working with shadows and contours, we always want a soft edge where we end it so that we can really have no question in our mind what is a dimensional edge and what is a soft contour or the edge of a shadow. So watch for this ending too abruptly. This is something you might notice that you are having a tendency to do. As I'm creating my leading edge, I've lingered long enough to get my full value, and now I start pulling away, and I know that I need to start lightening up on the pressure of my pencil. It's real easy to have your strokes get shorter and shorter and shorter as you lighten up. And you'll end up with basically a triangular shape. And this shape is really going to hamper your style. Now remember, there's a time and place, an exception to almost everything, but we want to make sure it's because we chose to do it and not that it's just happening because that's just the way it goes on for us. So we want to really think about keeping our stroke and the patch just as long here at where we end it as we are at the beginning, so that we have a little more of a rectangular shape. It's going to be vertical probably, but we don't want to end up with this triangle and have that stroke get shorter and shorter. This will really hamper what we're going to do later. The next exercise will really run into problems if we do this. So I really want you to watch for this and avoid this if you can. When we're starting out with our initial lead line, creating that clean edge, and I start pulling away and I start seeing spaces, I want to get into the habit of going back in and catching those spaces as I go. And remember, that's what we talked about a little while ago when we were doing the patches right. We want to make sure, where are we holding the pencil? And make sure you're making the proper adjustments on the shaft so that we can go ahead and actually put that tip right in the place, right in the space, and not have to go ahead and worry about putting it back on one of the dark ones and never being able to really fill the gap efficiently. So if you start seeing this, I want you to fine-tune the grip on your pencil. And this will never translate into a nice round cheek or forehead and something that's very soft like a baby or a woman. And I want you to really back up and address this. So this is an opportunity for you to adjust your pencil. I can start off with my lead line. I can be going along and realize that I've got some bouncing going on here. And you'll see these little tick marks at the top, these little dots, because I have no control. If I don't have this firmly placed in the saddle and I have more than half or too much of the flow and grace, I'm going to end up with something that is just going to bounce around. I'll never be able to hit the spot and I won't have enough control. So this is the other end of the extreme, and I want you to really watch for that. There's something else that can go wrong. If you're starting your patch out and you end up with your nice clean edge, and now you're going to come away from that and you have a fairly good gradation, and all of a sudden, boom, there's a dark line. There's another one. And maybe you're not hitting, you're not gripping your pencil consistently. You may be getting down too far to control, and so you're trying to regulate the pressure, and it's a much more difficult task when you have too much control. And this is something that is going to not be good, because you don't want to continue with that darker value trying to fade it away, or your area of transition and your gradation is going to be entirely too long. So it's best to go back in and utilize your eraser. Soften that back up again so that it doesn't dominate. Come back and now reapproach your gradation. When you get to those lines, hop over so that they become absorbed and become a part of the value instead of such a contrast. But that's what's going to happen probably if you have a little bit too much control. It makes it very difficult to have that grazing of the surface, so to speak, so that you can just feather that pencil on. So remember, we don't want this. That's going to take away from the gradation. It's going to interrupt the flow. It's going to become something. It might become a scratch or a cut or something that is just going to distract and take away from what you're trying to do. So I really want you to address this and find out what you can do to either back off on the pressure or to fix it as you go, so that it doesn't have to become swallowed up in even a darker value, or you'll lose that opportunity for sensitivity, contour, and curve. There's probably a number of things that I could continue showing you, but I want to show you this one more, because as we come off with our lead line, man, it seems like we have a taper okay. But then as I come in here, you'll notice that if I am hitting the pavement too hard, I'm never going to be able to have a flow this way as well. There's going to be something that's going to interrupt it continually. And it's going to maybe make a little hooks on the beginning so that we don't have a nice transition into it. And again, if we don't have our tapered stroke down, we could end up by this happening where we won't have a nice transition out and we won't be able to add on to it and continue it on indefinitely like we would if we had a soft ending to this patch. So this is another reason why we want these nice soft endings on 3 sides so that we can extend them further if we want to and have them truly fade away into the light or the dark. So I want you to watch for the tapered stroke, go back and practice it some more so that you can land on the paper and take off with all that flow and grace.